Welcome, my friends, to the darkest corners. Today's tales are a little suspenseful, mysterious, and dimensional. Please enjoy the story. Please like, subscribe, and if you don't like, please dislike, as they help the algorithm and my channel grow, as I would like to grow this year in 2026. Thank you, and have a great week. Part 1. The Late Shift. The fluorescent lights of the Sterling building don't hum, they scream. It's a low-frequency vibration that settles in your teeth. Elias worked the late shift data entry on the 14th floor. He was used to the emptiness. He was used to the way the shadows seemed to pool like spilled ink in the corners of the cubicles. But tonight, the air felt thick, like breathing through wet wool. At 11:42 p.m., Elias packed his bag. He walked to the elevator bank, his footsteps echoing too loudly on the polished marble. He pressed the button for the lobby. The door slid shut with a heavy metallic thud. The elevator began its descent. Sure, Shh. Then the floor groaned. The car shuddered, lurching to a halt. The digital display didn't show a number. It showed a symbol, a jagged, flickering line like a pulse flatlining. Part 2. The level that shouldn't exist. The doors didn't open at first. When they finally did, they moved with agonizing slowness. Elias didn't see the lobby. He saw a hallway, but the proportions were wrong. The ceiling was too low, forced down by heavy, rusted pipes that sweated a dark, viscous liquid. The wallpaper was a sickly, peeling yellow, patterned with faded, geometric shapes that seemed to shift if he looked at them directly. "Hello?" he called out. His voice didn't echo. It was swallowed instantly, muffled by the oppressive air. He stepped out, thinking it was a mechanical error, maybe a maintenance floor. He turned back to press the closed door button, but the elevator car was gone. In its place was a solid brick wall, the mortar still damp. Part 3. The Geometry of Fear. Elias began to walk. He had no choice. The hallway went on for miles, or maybe it was just a loop. He passed the same water cooler 3 times, except each time the water inside was darker. By the third pass, it looked like old blood. He began to hear it then, a sound like wet sandpaper being dragged over bone. Scritch, scritch, scritch. It was coming from behind the walls. He started to run. His lungs burned. The yellow wallpaper began to bleed, a dark, oily substance. He rounded a corner and stopped dead. In the middle of the hallway stood a desk. On the desk was a rotary phone. It was ringing. Part 4. The voice in the wire. Against every instinct, Elias answered. There was no hello, just the sound of heavy, wet breathing, then a voice that sounded like a choir of 1,000 people screaming in a whisper. You left your keys on the 14th floor, Elias. Elias fumbled for his pocket. It was empty. Don't look up, the voice whispered. The ceiling is hungry tonight. Elias froze. He felt a drop of something cold and caustic hit the bridge of his nose. He looked down at the floor. The shadows cast by the flickering overhead lights weren't his. They were elongated, reaching toward him with multi-jointed fingers. Part 5. The Descent. He found a door marked stairwell. He burst through it, sprinting down the concrete steps. Level B1, B2, B3. He should have hit the basement by now, but the numbers kept going. B15, B40, B100. The air grew colder. The smell of ozone and rotting meat filled the stairwell. He looked over the railing into the center gap of the stairs. It didn't end. It was a black straw reaching into the throat of the earth. He heard the scritch sound again. It was above him now. Something was coming down the stairs, moving with a chaotic, arachnid rhythm. Part 6. The lobby. Elias reached a door marked Exit. He threw his weight against it. He stumbled out into the cool night air. The streetlights were bright. Cars honked. The city was alive. He collapsed on the sidewalk, sobbing with relief. A security guard from the Sterling building walked over. "You all right, pal?" Elias looked up, gasping. The elevator, the stairs. I got trapped. The guard tilted his head. His neck cracked, a loud, wet sound. Trapped? The Sterling building has been condemned since the fire in '94, son. Elias looked back. Behind him stood a blackened, hollowed-out concrete shell. There were no lights, no marble, no 14th floor. He looked down at his hands. They were covered in peeling yellow wallpaper, and from the darkness of the ruined lobby, a rotary phone began to ring.